If managing product variants feels like whack-a-mole, then you're not alone. Sizes, colors, materials, configurations, it all gets messy fast. And you're probably asking yourself, should you reduce the number of variants in your shopping feed? The answer is not as simple as you might think. On the surface, it's a definite yes. It simplifies the data for smart fitting and it makes it easier to analyze product performance. But I've been surprised often enough when reducing variants that the answer isn't that simple. So today we'll walk through three things: what product variants are and why they matter, when it makes sense to reduce them, and most importantly, when you shouldn't mess with them. So let's get into it. A product variant is just a version of a product. Think different colors, sizes, styles, or configurations. And the issue is that with just a basic example, a t-shirt that comes in 10 colors and 6 sizes, that's 60 variants of one product, and you see this all the time. In fashion, it's different colors and sizes. In jewelry, it's different sizes, different materials. For eyewear, different lens strength. Furniture, you have different colors, but you also have different configurations, right hand, left hand, all these things. Electronics, you have storage capacity, color options, price options. All of this is everywhere. And if you don't manage them right, then they can mess with your performance in a big way. This is what I call the variant dilemma. Here's the deal. Too many variants is bad, and too few variants is also bad. Let me first show you what I mean, and let me just explain it in this sheet. So here I've just pulled out the data so we can much more easily play with it. Let's try to take cost up above 500, just so we get something in there. We have all the item group IDs over here. And then we have cost and then ROAS. And now I've just limited it, but let's try to go down. We say, okay, these are the same item group ID. They're both over ROAS. That's great. Then let's try to go down. Okay, these two also run the same ROAS. That's not a problem. And then we start coming down to here. Okay, so we have two products, almost the same amount of cost, of a little bit more than one, but one has 800% ROAS, the other has 0. What do you do there when you try to figure out what the performance is? Which one do you go by? You should obviously aggregate it, but how useful is that actually? And then let's try to go down. All of this is all nice, all good, all clean. 43 here. We have overall performance is high, but we have one variant that has a low ROAS. It would be falling into another campaign if we try to do that. Here again, we have 50% performance difference. So again, is this a massive issue for most accounts? Most likely not. And that's why I keep going back to saying, usually when you work with product variants, it's not as big of a deal as you try to make it out to be. The problem with too many variants is the smart bidding can get confused. That's what we totally talked about before. The data is scattered across 50 SKUs instead of focusing on one or two. The second thing is that it's a nightmare to analyze, like I just showed. Spend jumps around. One day it's on the large red t-shirt, the next day it's on the blue medium. And the third thing is that campaign management can get cluttered. SKUs can jump from one campaign to another, especially when you use these performance groupings, because like I showed you before, some products or some variants kind of high performance, other have low performance, and it's all just random. The problem with going too far in the other direction where you have too few variants is that I see it again and again and again. Number one thing is that you lose shopping ad coverage. Fewer variants equals to fewer chances to show. And you can get screwed by out of stock issues. If you're only advertising for the black size large t-shirt and it goes out of stock, even though all other sizes are available, the Google will not show anything. And that's not nice. So how do you fix this? There's two ways. And the simple thing, whenever you work with product variants, this is not rocket science. You add the item group ID to group similar variants together. It shows Google that this is what you're supposed to do. The second more advanced fix is to reduce the number of variants that you actually send to Google. But let's try to break it down. First and foremost, when should you reduce variants? My general thinking is that you don't need to panic over every single product with a few variants. Smart bidding knows how to work with it, especially if you have item group ID with it. But if you're working with more than 15 variants per product, that's when problems start stacking up. And honestly, my biggest issue with it is that analyzing performance becomes a black hole. It goes up and down, and I can't follow. What if traffic goes down on one product and I compare it year over year, it has to just jump to another variant? All that then starts becoming an issue. Here's how to approach it. you want to try to find a common denominator. You want to keep all the meaningful variants. So if it's like, okay, I want to keep all the colors of a product, or I want to keep the same, like different material variants and stuff like that. Things that people actually search for and filter for. And in this case, you could probably remove sizes. You want to try to see top performers. It's hard to actually work into deduplicating your products, but keeping your top performers means that if your top performers are variants in the extra large or XXL, then going in and saying, okay, now we're only showing small, medium, and large, that's not a good thing, or only show medium. Whatever you do with all this, monitor results. This is really one of those test and learn plays and not a set and forget move. So how to actually reduce variance? First and foremost, audit your current performance, find out which variants are actually selling or getting clicks. Then from there, identify the top performers and try to find some common traits. Maybe it's 80% of the sales are coming from medium sizes, or you can put it all back into one version. And then you create a reduction plan. You need to deduplicate the variants in your favorite feed tool. The most important thing, and step number 5, is that you want to make sure you have backup rules for availability. I'm not going to go into details here because I tried to do it, and the test subject I had that when we went through this, they just got confused because that's not my tool, etc. I'll gladly do a unique video on just showing how to do this. But the whole thing here is that if your selected variant that you're keeping, so let's say you're keeping the medium size and that goes out of stock, then another can automatically take over. It's very important we don't try to force everything to be in stock. I used to do that. It just then caused issues because when Google lands on the product page being out of stock and I say it's in stock, then it'll just disapprove it. So you want to have a backup rule to make sure that just because the one variant you include goes out of stock, then it doesn't mean that the product entirely can't be shown. And again, this is where all the complexity starts adding up when we start working with product variants, and why I'd say it's not just, well, let's just reduce. 6th thing is, if you've got a big catalog, test, for goodness sake, test this on 20% of products first, because you can monitor performance. If traffic drops, and you'll see it immediately, then you want to revert it. But again, if traffic holds steady, then that's what you're trying to do, and you want to roll it out wider. Because if your traffic stays the same, that's the goal. You don't want to obsess over conversion rates and ROAS during testing, because it will not have that big of an impact on smart biddings algorithms initially. And also, this is also for you to analyze better. Don't watch impression share per se, because it can be tough to analyze across the different products and stuff like that. So don't worry about this. The goal is, if traffic stays the same, because we can track that really, really easily, then that's the goal. So again, go back to the final question. Should you reduce variance? Probably not. I've seen it hurt way more times than I've seen it be impactful. Actually, the only cases where we've done it with a definite good result has been with products like bras. With colors and sizes cut into 100, 200 variants, or when variants aren't important. We have a client where they simply just don't have sizes natively on their product pages, so we don't have to send in sizes, and it's really, really nice. But honestly, it's been worth the effort. So that's a myth I'd like to bust. Limiting variants don't do much for performance in my opinion. So to wrap it all up, I've been ending these videos with a quick recap, but YouTube punishes retention drops or if you don't watch half the video and stuff like that. So let me know in the comments if you like this format I'm going to show you in a second or not. If nobody says anything, I'll probably cut this part in future videos. Anyway, the key takeaways from today is 1, product variants can kill performance by scattering your data. 2, you should always use item group IDs to group similar variants. 3, if you've got more than 15 variants, then it's probably time to start reducing, but not if it's not a problem. 4, focus on variants that matter, color, material, and overall top performers. And 5, always monitor and be ready to revert if performance drops. You're thinking about what to do next. Review your product feed. Try to find products with 15 plus variants. Make sure you have item group IDs whenever appropriate. Pick a small batch to test and try to document the current performance. That way you can figure out whether or not this is actually working. So always be testing, always be learning when it comes to this. Thank you. Drop a comment in below if you like the takeaway section. Otherwise, I will drop it in the future. If you're into practical PPC insights that you can actually help you, then subscribe. I share tips, breakdowns, and call out what's working and what's not. No fluff, just the stuff that you can use every single week.